Okay, the meeting of the Leeward Planning Commission will now come to order. It's Thursday, June 15th, 2023, and the time is 9:39. No, 34. This meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. So I'm going to introduce the commissioners now. So we have Vice Chair Saheva Knowles. Good morning.
Good morning.
We have Commissioner Mike De La Cruz.
Aloha.
We have Commissioner CJ Kanuha
Good morning.
and Commissioner Mike Patusic. Commissioner Mahina Paishan Dewart is excused today, and I'm the chairperson, Barbara DeFranco, and we have a quorum to hold the meeting. I'm going to introduce our staff from the Office of Corporation Counsel. We have Deputy Corporation Counsel Sinclair Salles Ferguson, attorney for the commission.
Good morning.
Good morning. And we have Deputy Corporation Counsel Jean Campbell, attorney for the planning department. Good morning, Jean. We have representing the planning department, Director Zendo Kern.
Good morning.
And for staff, we have planning program manager Maya Jackson. Good morning. Planner Christian Kay. And planner Alex Roy. We have Commission Secretary Melissa Daicanyan Salvador. I think I said your name wrong. How do you pronounce that middle name? And Commission Secretary Narika Sawyer. And Janice Hata as our Zoom host in Hilo. Okay, and we're going to do this. So today is our dear Noriko Sawyer's last meeting. She has been our wonderful secretary and has kept track of all of us for a long time. We will miss you. And we wanted to do a little presentation for Noriko.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Thank you.
Thank you. It is with a great pleasure and a great honor to honor Noriko Sawyer on behalf of the Planning Commission, the Planning Department, the Mayor's Office, and the entire County of Hawaii. Your service has been amazing. It has been an absolute pleasure to work with Noriko. She is such a public servant. Her heart is gold. She is always there smiling and is always going the extra mile. So Noriko, if you could stand up, please. Just want to say that we really, really appreciate you. And I hereby give you the certificate of appreciation signed by our mayor, Mayor Roth. And again, let's give it up for Noriko. We appreciate you.
Thank you. All right, so a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to turn cell phones on silence. So please make sure that everyone has done that. And that if there's anyone who wants to testify, you need to fill out a little yellow card over there. And also, if you have any written testimony that has not been sent in earlier, you can submit it to the staff. When you come to speak directly into your microphone. You have to get it pretty close for it because it's being recorded. And when you're done speaking, please make sure you mute it. Please raise your hand to be recognized by the chair before you start speaking. Okay. I don't even have any yellow cards, so we don't have anybody signed up. We don't have anybody signed up to testify. This one's mine. Okay. So we have approval of the minutes, the review and approval of the minutes from May 19th, 2023. Leeward Planning Commission minutes. Are there any corrections? If there's no correction, we need a motion to.
Motion to approve.
Need a second. Is there any discussion? No discussion? Okay, we're gonna vote, a voice vote is fine. Mike, go ahead.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Mike,
Aye.
two mics. Oh, hi, okay. So do we have any statements from the public on the agenda items? We have one online, okay. Testifiers on Zoom. Okay, keep your video cameras. Okay. You have a choice of testifying now. Oh, we only have one agenda item. So we might as well just testify now. Okay, so testifier on Zoom. Are we ready to do this?
Yes, Chair, we have 3 testifiers on Zoom.
Okay,
And our first testifier is John Kawano on agenda items 1 and 2.
okay, so at first, I just want all of you, if they could, raise your right hand and swear to tell the truth today before the Leeward Planning Commission. Yes? Yes, everybody's yes. There's one more person. I can't hear or see you. Yes. There's 3 people.
Yes, there are.
2 people.
Nancy, if you could unmute your audio.
Sure, I
Thank you.
agree.
Okay. All right, thank you. And then who is going to go first then? John.
Our first testifier is John Kawano.
Yes, will you please state your name and where you are from? And you have 3 minutes then to speak. Go ahead, John.
Okay.
Unmute and
Good morning, everyone. I'm John Kawano, and we are the neighbor of such property of Mr. Metzler.
yes, please go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You have a 3.
First of all, I'd like to open up in saying, Mr. Metzler always been a good neighbor to us, been very fair. But for me, this project, the impact on the community, I feel we are maxing in our infrastructures right now. So it will promote a heavy traffic impact. Waimea, we have school traffic in the morning, after work traffic in the evening. I mean, we're maxing. We can't even get out of our driveways now. Secondly, such property, when it rains heavy rain, water flows through our property into the Metzler property. It's always been a saturation point where it can absorb these floodwaters, And when he puts up that parking lot, how is it going to egress the surrounding properties around him, below him? That's our concern. Is it going to cause flooding to all these properties? Because we have, the back of the property has Lani Mau Mau Stream. It's a flood zone. And the front of the property is the egress of Lani Mau Mau Stream onto Mamaloa Highway. And it runs down through the front of Metzler's property, and it egresses into that next Parker Ranch properties. So how is that impacting public safety? And then thirdly, I hate to put him on the spot because, he's kind of on the fringes of what's town and what's country. But once we open up this floodgate and allow Ag 5 to be broken up like this, what's to propose everyone on these 20-acre parcels all the way up to Lakeland?
30 seconds, John, 30 seconds.
Okay. And this will be like the stick holding back the dam on floodwaters, So whatever we say, oh, we want to be sustainable. Let's preserve this ag land. If Mr. Metzler knew how much money he could grow, how much money he could make growing celery, on that property, I think he would reconsider going to spending all this money. You know, that land is, wow, I've seen it produce so much.
John, your time is up.
Thank
Okay,
you,
Please
John.
conclude.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the next person speaking is,
The next testifier is E. Kalani Flores on agenda items 1 and 2.
okay. Welcome, welcome. You know, I sort of skipped a little part here. I just want to reiterate that we will speak with aloha to each other with respect. We will keep this to a 3-minute and keep it focused on comments related to this subject. And if anybody isn't going to be courteous and respect one another, I will not hesitate to exercise authority as the chairperson to address these behaviors. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Aloha, Chair. Before I get started, I want a question of clarity. Do I have 3 minutes per agenda item? Since I'm speaking upon 2 agenda items.
Yes,
So I would have a total of 6 minutes. Is that correct?
so that's correct. Thank you.
You were given 6 minutes, John.
Please state your name and where you're from.
Aloha, Commissioners. My name is E. Kalani Flores. We're residents in Waimea. We're actually just a few blocks down from the proposed project. And my wife is Pua Case. And we live, like I said, we live just a few blocks down from the project. And we adamantly oppose this project because it's too big, the project as proposed. And so first of all, I have submitted written testimony dated June 13, 2023, that if you take a look at it, I'm not
Yes,
going to go
we
over
did. We did
all
look
the
at it.
okay, great. So I'm not going to go over all details, but I just want to highlight that the project is not in compliance and it's not consistent with the general plan and the South Kohala CDP. And I've outlined all the reasons why in there, so I'm not going to go over the specific reasons, but one of it, the main concerns is what this project is bigger than it is. That should be in this particular section. And Mr. Kwana spoke about the traffic. I say that the traffic assessment is unrealistic from a Honolulu firm that did it. And from someone who lives right down the road, the traffic is horrendous at times. And this is only increased traffic in this area. But in particular, why it's not consistent with the general plan is that, first of all, part of the general plan talks about protecting the agricultural lands in Hawaii and on this island. And that particular parcel is one of the prime agricultural lands in all of the islands, in particular in Waimea. And the reason why it is, it's not just the soil, but it's the climate elevation, but it's protected from the wind in this particular area. That's why there was and still is a prime agricultural land, and it was a prime agricultural land prior to being acquired as such. And so I listed all the reasons why the goals and policies and courses of action are inconsistent with this particular project. In addition to that, when you look at also the general plan has to do with commercial development, there's certain things why it's inconsistent with commercial development as such. And one of the things this project is this project as such is when you look at, and in the general plan 14.3.5.6.2 courses of action, it says the county and the planning commissions are to establish controls to ensure orderly development and minimize speculation of commercially zoned lands. This project is purely speculation, a project. As you can see, the project was once zoned before commercial, and then it was ag, and then the owner took it out and put it in ag to reduce his taxes, which isn't against the law, but in the instance, he wasn't really trying to he was just trying to reduce his taxes in agriculture on the agriculture zoning, knowing that he's going to come back and build a bigger project here. So that's purely speculation. This project is purely speculation. And just when you go to the CDP, the South Kohala CDP, and you look at page 2 at the bottom, there's a policy number 2. It says responsible growth, moderate the pace of growth and change in Waimea. And one of the things it doesn't meet as such, it says in one of the strategies 2.1, it says the county shall carefully evaluate and condition as appropriate any rezoning that would negatively impact important agricultural lands or culturally, visually, and environmentally important open spaces or resources in Waimea. This is not consistent with the South Kohala CDP. In addition, it also says, and you go to page 3 at the top, it says private lands that are currently zoned A-5A and so forth should retain their current zoning. That's not the case here. Other concerns, of course, is that if you actually know the property in Waimea, and there's actually a map, a satellite picture of it. This proposed project is being sandwiched in between the historic ranch houses of Parker Ranch and other houses on the east side. So both on the east and west side, they're residential homes, historic residential homes. And this project is trying to sandwich itself inside between the two of them. So all the other reasons listed of why this project should be not approved. This project is, once again, proposed solely for speculation purposes. This proposed project would adversely increase traffic congestion near this area. The proposed commercial development scale and size is not compatible for this area. And the proposed project would adversely increase property taxes for residents in this area. So what I'm saying is that the size and scope of this project is too large and too big. So if the applicant wants to come back to get what the original zoning was, then we won't be most adamantly opposed to that. The original zoning was Ag 5A, and there was a zoning in the front, the commercial CN 7.5 for the front end.
30
road
seconds remaining.
So what I'm saying is that the project right now is going for a higher up zoning than what it originally was prior to making it all ag. So I say the applicant should come back in with the previously zoning of that area, and the project should not be upscaled to CN 10. Why are we increasing the capacity and size of the commercial development? The further you move from the town center, the development should be downscaling. Right now, you're upscaling. All the other commercial properties are all CN 7.5. This should not be a commercial CN 10.
Lonnie, please summarize your testimony. Thank you.
And I'd like to thank you, commissioners. And if you take a look in detail as to my testimony provided both written and orally, this project cannot move forward because it's not consistent with the general plan, it's not consistent with the Kohala CDP. And I thank you folks for your time and opportunity to provide testimony on this matter today. Thank you so much. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. We have one more Zoom testifier.
Chair, if I may, I'd like to offer John 3 more minutes to testify. His agenda, he registered to testify on agenda items 1 and 2. I apologize, John.
Okay.
Can I request that my partner have 3 minutes because we're on the same email to testify?
Oh, that would be fine.
Okay.
But I need to swear her in, please.
Okay, she should be right here. Thank you.
Yeah. And you swear to tell the truth today before the commission?
Yes,
Yes. And will you please state your name and where you're from?
sure. My name is Cece Davenport. I'm from Waimea. And I just want to say, I think because we use the same email is why maybe I wasn't on the Zoom list.
So do you want 6 minutes then to speak?
Sure, I'll take as much time as you allow me. That would be great.
Okay. And John,
Okay.
did you need your
Did you
other
want 3
3
more
minutes? We want to make sure everybody gets what they need to say.
Yeah, I'll take 3 more minutes if you guys don't mind.
Okay, so John, do you want to finish then and then we'll move on to Cece? Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, John.
Yeah. For me, growing up here, we grew up next door to the Ishiharas, yeah. And I watched John Metzler. It was, Jeffrey Cipriano had covered that property, so-called property in rocks.
And again, I'm just going to have you speak directly to what we're talking about today and make your
Yeah,
comments.
this will pertain,
Okay.
because the council needs to understand where our culture comes from now. I'm not Hawaiian. I was raised with the Hawaiians. And the council needs to understand aloha aina and how this is going to pertain to our keikis, our future. This is what we're fighting for. Listen, you think we're reverting to the past, yeah, but we're protecting the future here. So you listen, okay? I watched John Metzler and Ian, his partner. I watch them clean out every single rock in the afternoons. Boss ass. They're dirty, you know. Here's Ian and John around this fire having a beer. You know what happened to Jeffrey Cipriano? He died of a heart attack instantly. So this is what we're trying to tell Mr. Metzler. Don't forget the land you protected.
Please
by
direct
burying
your
it
comments to me.
by
as
burying
the chair.
under the parking lot. You know, it's like Kalani said, this agriculture is we have to protect it. And that's what we're fighting for. You know, not put up a parking lot buried in concrete. This land is, I watched it produce celery in the umpteen tons. There's no rocks on it. You know, and this is what we're fighting for. And, you know, during the pandemic, we say, hey, we got to promote sustainability. Huh? But how are we doing that? You know, think you guys. So that's my testimony.
Thank
You
you,
know.
John.
Okay.
CJ, did you want to come on now? And are you there, CJ? CC, sorry.
Oh, yes, yeah, yes.
Okay, all right. Go ahead. and-
So, yes, thank you very
State
much.
your name again, CC, for us and where you live.
Oh, sure. My name is Cece Davenport. I live on the Kawano property right next to the subject property. I, like John, was born and raised in this beautiful town. People say when you move away, and I moved away for a long time. I, moved away after high school. And they say that you get, you don't know how to really move into a new environment, especially a big city. But coming home was even more of a shock to me to see what Waimea had turned into and what Waimea has become and what it is today. My grandfather was a rancher and a farmer, and he took a lot of pride in that. The subject property, and I know, Commissioner Chairperson, you don't want us to veer off of the applications, but like John said, it's important. It's very, very important for people to understand the land and what this land means and what this land can provide. It's just not 3 two-story buildings with a 75 parking lot or parking space parking lot. It's just not 5 more, potentially 10 more homes in the back. It's maintaining what we have, because once it's gone, you can never, ever get it back. So if there is going to be development, it should be responsible development. It should not, I understand developers are in the business to make money. I understand that. I'm in real estate, as John's wife is, as Nancy Carr is. So to make money, it's okay, but don't do it to the detriment of the town and of the neighborhood. And that's exactly how this development will impact this town and this immediate surrounding neighborhood. Imagine a KTA parking lot next door on that property, because that's what he's asking for. That's 75 cars parked there. And you'll say, oh, well, there's never going to be 75 cars parked there at one time. Well, have you ever been to the KTA parking lot shopping center? Traffic is backed up to the street light. Try getting out of Foodland or Long's now. it's difficult. And you have traffic moving at very, very fast here, more than the speed limit, which is not good. And that's not Mr. Metzler's fault. It's not his problem. But it will even increase. It will add to the already heavy, heavy traffic that we have here. Public safety. It's just not a good idea. And then to continue with what John was saying about the land. And I don't know if Mr. Metzler is aware of this, but there's a lot of energy on that property, especially up front. It's not good energy. Jeffrey Cipriano, I knew when I was a kid. Jeffrey died of a heart attack for no reason. Jeffrey was young. And I think this is something Mr. Metzler should keep in mind. And look, Commission, whether you believe it, whether you understand it, whether you want to believe it or not, it doesn't matter because it does exist. So if Mr. Metzler wants to continue with this, he should go in with eyes wide open. And when something happens, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When something happens to his wife, his kids.
Excuse me, please, if you want to speak to us directly.
Yeah, sure. I'm addressing Mr. Metzler because I know he's in the audience there.
Please, you have to stop talking now.
Yeah,
We're done.
okay.
We're done with your testimony. Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much, Commission.
I'm done. I'm not gonna do this. Okay, I think we have one more person on Zoom. And again, I want to remind everybody that your comments are made to me. They're to be about what we're talking about today, what's on our agenda items, and any background that you feel that we need to know. We do want to hear from you, but we want it done in a respectful way.
Oh, that was
Thank
respectful.
you. Please state your name and where you're from.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Nancy Carr-Smith, past chair of this Leeward Planning Commission and resident of Waimea. I'm testifying as an individual in favor of the rezone for Ka'upulehu land project in Waimea. I love Waimea. I'm very involved in the community. I'm a director at Waimea Community Association. I'm on the Waimea Design Review Committee, Waimea Parade Committee. I'm a coordinator with Big Island Giving Tree. We help kupuna and keiki in our community. And I organize Waimea's annual Mahalo to First Responders event. I'm very invested in the well-being of our community. I know this property, and I think the rezone to smaller ag lots is a good plan. We need more small ag parcels for Waimea residents to purchase and live on. They can't always afford larger parcels, nor can they realistically maintain them. I know that ag has become a hot topic and we all want to preserve it. I get that. But in reality, farmers are often a dying breed, unfortunately. Younger generations don't always want to take over the businesses. And while we do have some younger farmers coming into Waimea to benefit from its fertile soil and temperate weather, many others are no longer farming or ranching. There's a lot of barren ag land in Waimea that's not being used in ag. I feel that in more cases than not, these days we see locals wanting small properties, small ag properties to grow their own food, raise their animals, and raise their family. And these parcels, I believe, are appropriate for that. I think the applicant has also demonstrated the respect of the local architecture by maintaining the design in those two existing ranch homes that are on the property. In terms of the commercial zoning along Mamalohoa, I think that that is appropriate. It has neighboring commercial properties, and in this area nearing the end of the commercial zone going east out of town, there are other commercial zone properties or buildings as well, and many of them are in disrepair. There's medical practitioners and other service providers that would like to offer services to us residents of Waimea, and they cannot find spaces to provide those services. I think it would be nice if Waimea Kupuna didn't have to travel to get services. It would be nice if they were in town. I can say that I prefer to see the commercial buildings be single-story structures. I think it would have a lot less of a visual impact, probably meaning fewer units. But in general, I support the concept. I know that study has been done. We can only assume that,
30
Uh,
seconds, Nancy.
oh, okay. Oh, I didn't get the 6 minutes. Okay.
6 minutes, is that right?
Because Nancy is registered for only agenda item 2 is what
Okay,
I see
okay.
on my end.
Got it.
Sorry about that.
No, excuse me, if Nancy wants to speak for 6 minutes, she can, just like everybody else has.
Oh, okay, got it.
That's fine. Thank you. Yeah, so I think the commercial building should be single story. I know that the left turn lane has already been installed in front of Earl's and this property. I know that Earl's recently put out a statement that they're no longer allowing parking in front of their building. So that should help with some of that confusion getting in and out. And evidently it's going to be left turn both ways. So that would be helpful as well. I know that traffic's an issue here. I always just look at it as it's school work traffic and then it's over. In closing, I want to say that I do not know the applicants. I know Joni is in real estate, but I don't know them. But I do believe that people need to be treated fairly. And when I see form letters that say they oppose any developments by this applicant, then I have a pretty good feeling that it's personal. And I think that's sad. I respect everyone's opinions, but I do feel that you as commissioners need to keep the personal feelings aside and look at the technical merits of the application and follow your rules. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nancy. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for the testifiers so far? Okay, so we have, thank you, Nancy. We have one testifier here. An in-person testifier. Can we call them now? Yeah. So, Ian Langieria. Oh, sorry. Yeah, either one. And just come and sit down and turn your mic on. And I'm going to just ask you to raise your right hand, and it's that little button on the bottom, very bottom. There you go.
How about
Now
that?
put them, yeah, aloha. Just state, I'm just going to swear you in. You swear to tell the truth today in front of the commission.
I do.
Okay, and then just state your name and where you're from.
Thanks. Commissioners, my name is Ian Langevin and I'm.
Put it right to here, so,
Okay,
okay,
there we go.
thank you.
My name is Ian Langevin and I'm a 35-year resident of Waimea. Raised my family there, and I have been involved with the subject land for since 2002. Back when it was a total mess. And so if I could spend my first, maybe only 2 minutes on the first agenda item, which I believe is the rezoning to commercial. A little clarity on that. I was actually the individual that requested the rescinding of 93 or what was it, 9563, the ordinance that had changed that to commercial. And that there was a pretty extreme amount of conditions on the zoning, change of zoning application at the time, including a stoplight. And this is back in early 2000s. The time limit had expired on the property, or the rezoning application had expired. And in order to get the subdivision to 5 acres, we needed to rescind the commercial. And at the time that was a CN 7.5, as was previously pointed out, which I believe is a slightly higher density than what Mr. Metz was applying for now. That particular area, as previously mentioned, was had basically become a dump site for the town of Waimea. All the town, when they cleaned it out, when they widened the roads, all that material ended up out in that land. It was a really, really sad mess. And I give John a lot of credit for investing the time and effort and resources and whatnot and really cleaning it up. I mean, it was a mess. There was light standards and asphalt and concrete and sidewalks, and it was a mess. And so I really respect what he did to clean that up. The second point I want to make, where I think is a good thing for what's happening with the commercial zoning up there, is that if Mr. Metzler was a greedy developer, he probably would have made it one lot, and that would reduce his cost for all the infrastructure, all the subdivision, all the improvements that need to go in. If it was just one big lot, they would sell it to who knows who from somewhere in the mainland. We may end up with a big box store there, which Waimea doesn't need another big box store. I'm excited with the fact that it's 3 lots. It gives 3 different owners opportunities, and hopefully local businesses that can have a chance to establish something and hang out their shingle and provide a service to the local community. With regards to the traffic, I think everyone here understands that commercial properties by themselves do not create cars. Okay, cars may go there, cars leave there, but they don't create cars. I don't think they necessarily create any additional traffic going up and down Mamalohoa Highway. And there may actually be some benefit to it in that, as everyone here who's testified, that there is, it's a 30-mile-an-hour zone, but as soon as you get past HPM heading east, it's like people are speeding up. So perhaps having a couple of extra driveways going onto the highway at that point, like I said, the improvements, the center lane's already there. Perhaps a couple extra driveways on there may actually slow the traffic down a bit, at least get it down to below the speed limit, at or below the speed limit. So that would be my comments on the commercial property. And so now if I can switch over onto the back 3 acres, I guess you could call it, is so yeah, that was historically, everybody's pretty aware of the history of that. And so right now, for me, I will probably be either myself and the neighbor to the front of me will probably be the most directly impacted people, in that it's my driveway. Okay, so it's my, I own the parcel of flag. And so when I look at the highest and best use of the land, and I think that's what we're all trying to do, is as you know, where development's going to happen here, how do we do it right? And what is the highest and best use of that land? That, you know, it's only 3 acres. You can't do a large scale commercial farm. There's already 2 homes on it, you know, so that reduces the arable land size as well. There's a flood zone on it that reduces the developable area. And I do a lot of gardening myself. I've got probably an acre that I grow a lot of different stuff on. And I would say that a lot size of a half an acre that's zoned ag, there's enough room for a house, there's enough room to park your car, and there's enough room to get, you know, maybe a half dozen raised beds and a few fruit trees in there. And you can actually do something on a scale that's manageable. And for most of us that live here in Hawaii, we work full time. And so to be able to do a little bit of farming on the side, which a lot of folks really enjoy doing, maybe they support themselves, support their neighbors. You can do that on a small scale. You can't do it on a large scale unless you do it full time. And full time, I mean, as previously mentioned, most of the good arable land in Waimea.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay, thank you. So most of the good arable land in Waimea, I think there's a shortage, there's a bigger shortage of farmers than there is farmland per se. And so in closing, I'd just like to thank you guys for having the opportunity. I think the process is great. I wasn't really excited about the last version of this plan that came around. I'm a lot more excited about what I see now in the lower density. And from my perspective, 3 additional cars coming out of my driveway is not a huge impact. And it's 3 cars that are closer to town versus 3 cars that are down in Lakeland having to make the drive. Thank you very much for your time.
I have a quick question. So I just want to clarify. So you live right next to where this is, the Metzler's development, and you share a driveway with the acreage that's been made smaller, that in the back, the half-acre parcels is. I'm just trying to understand where you are.
Oh, okay. If you look at the map of the project, there's
Yeah.
Mamalohoa Highway, and then there's 2 flag lots that are directly adjacent to the front highway
Yeah,
frontage 5 acre
right.
parcel.
Yeah,
Okay, so one of those flag poles leads back down the original Ishihara farm towards
Okay.
Kahilu Street,
yeah.
and that's our location. So now you know where to find
And
me.
you're comfortable with the new proposed.
Yeah, I mean, currently there's only there's two homes on there now
Yeah,
that have been there forever, right? And so with the current plan, I believe there's a total of 5 half-acre lots.
Right.
So it's gonna go from 2 homes to 5 homes,
yeah.
which is that's not really a large development per se.
Right, okay.
Right.
Do we have any other questions for him? Commissioners? Have any Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks very much for your time.
Okay, so that's going to conclude our public testimony for these, and we're going to take the 2 agenda items we have together. Okay, so we have the applicant Kahupulehu Land LLC, PL-SLU-2022-000008. Application for a state land use boundary amendment from agricultural to rural for 2.653 acres of land. The subject property is located at 64-983 Mamalahoa Highway, approximately 1 mile east of its intersection with Kauai High Road, Pu'ukapu Homesteads, South Kahala, Hawaii, TMK 36-4-0224-027. And the second item, applicant Kahupulehu Land LLC, PLREZ 2022-00039. Application for a change of zone from agricultural 5-acre, A5A, zoning district to a neighborhood commercial 10,000 square feet, CN-10 zoning district for 2.325 acres of land, and from an agricultural 5-acre, A5A zoning district to a residential agricultural half-acre RA.5 zoning district for 3.024 acres of land. The subject property is located at 64-983 Mamalahoa Highway, approximately 1 mile east of its intersection with Kauai High Road, Pu'ukapu Homestead, South Kahala, Hawaii, TMK 36-4-02027. So now we're going to have a staff presentation from Christian K. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair DeFranco, and good morning to members of the Leeward Planning Commission. As the chair stated, these are going to be 2 applications. We'll present them as one and then act on them individually. Okay, the subject, a 5.349 acre parcel, is located in the South Kohala district of Hawaii Island, more specifically in the Waimea area. It is outlined here in red. And for reference, we've got the highway running generally east-west through the slide, sorry, left to right through the slide. The applicant is requesting a state land use boundary amendment from an agricultural to rural district for 2.653 acres of land and a change of zone from an agricultural 5-acre zoning district to a neighborhood commercial 10,000 square feet, a district for 2.325 acres of land, and to a residential and agricultural zoning district for 3.024 acres of land. If the requested land use entitlement changes are approved, the applicant proposes to subdivide the property into a total of 8 lots as follows. 3 minimum 10,000 square foot commercial lots fronting Mamalahoa Highway with 3 proposed 1- and 2-story mixed retail and commercial/office buildings having a gross leasable floor area of approximately 18,600 square feet. And 5 minimum 1/2 acre residential agricultural lots on the south or Malka portion of the property. The applicant would like to begin construction within 6 months after issuance of all permit approvals, with full build out of the proposed project anticipated to be in 2027. Here is the county zoning map of the subject property and surrounding area. Again, for reference, we've got Mamalahoa Highway running generally left to right through the slide. Subject property here outlined in red. Subject property and some of the surrounding area is agricultural 5 acres as indicated by the green color. But as you can see, there are other residential and commercial designations in close proximity to the subject property, including several parcels zoned neighborhood commercial, 7,500 square feet, and some village commercial across the highway. And then some residential indicated in the yellow and mustard colors. The state land use designation for the subject property is split. The Mackay portion is urban as indicated in the pink color. And this is generally the area where the proposed commercial zoning is going to be. The Malka portion of the property is presently state land use agricultural as indicated in green. And this is generally the area that is being proposed to be converted to the state land use rural district. And then we'll also include the proposed RA 0.5 zoning. Here is the general plan's land use pattern allocation guide map showing the subject property, again, having a split designation. The Mackay portion of the property is largely within the medium density urban designation, with the Malka portion of the property being in the low density urban designation. The medium density urban designation would support the proposed commercial zoning, and the low density urban designation on the Malka portion would support the higher density being proposed in the RA zoning. Here is the South Kohala Community Development Plan map for Waimea Town. Again, subject property is located, roughly in this area, and blown up here. We see the subject property outlined in red. Again, the Mackay portion of the property is generally within an area designated for urban uses, with the Malka portion of the property in what the CDB calls the small farms and ranches preservation program area. Here's an aerial photograph of the subject property and surrounding areas. Again, you can see the subject property here outlined in blue, with the exception of 2 structures, dwellings that were built in the 1920s on the property. The rest of the property is unimproved and vacant. We've got Ishihara Farm Road coming to the right of the property here that currently provides access to those dwellings. And again, the highway running left, right through the slide. Again, you can see the surrounding land uses are residential, commercial, and agricultural. Here is the applicant's proposed site plan. For these purposes, the highway is running on the left-hand side of the slide. Ishihara Farm Road here at the top, and the 3 proposed the commercial lots closest to the highway. Currently showing 2 proposed accesses to the commercial area. The 5 residential agricultural lots, Malka, will be accessed from Ichihara Farm Road, some directly and some through access easements servicing all of the properties. 2 of the 5 lots will contain the existing dwellings. Here are some photographs of the site. The upper left is a view of Mamalahoa Highway looking east. And on the lower right is a view of Mamalahoa Highway looking west. Again, you can see the current striping, highway striping in the area. And here are views of into the property from Ishihara Farm Road looking Malka north. With the property on the right-hand side, some photographs of the existing structures, and a view across the property showing currently unimproved. The planning director is recommending favorable recommendation be forwarded to the county council on both the state land use boundary amendment and the rezoning requests. With that, I'm happy to take questions as appropriate.
Thank you. I had a couple of questions for you. The questions from some of the,
Sorry, one more thing. I was asked to point out that there's been several pieces of testimony that have come in since the background and recommendation were provided to the commission. And overall, we've got 43 pieces of testimony in support of the project and 20 pieces of testimony in opposition.
thank you
I'm
for
sorry,
that.
happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Yeah, one of the questions from some of the people had to do with flooding and traffic. Can you speak to that?
Sure. Come back here. Alex, can you bring me back to the site plan? So a few things with regards to traffic. The applicants did commission a traffic impact analysis report that was submitted to the State Department of Transportation, who in 2021 took ownership and management responsibility for this section of the highway from the county. There's been significant discussions back and forth between the applicant's representatives and the State Department of Transportation on proposed mitigation around accessing the property. And thus far, they haven't been able to hammer out whether or not the two accesses are appropriate to DOT's satisfaction. So what the director is recommending is conditions basically saying access will meet the requirements of the State Department of Transportation. Also, I believe there's a condition that speaks to an updated TIAR as well, be necessary prior to occupancy, and any mitigation that is proposed and any mitigation required by the State Department of Health will be required prior to occupancy. In terms of flooding, there are different flood zone designations on the property. There are the stream on the southern portion of the property that there'll be a drainage study required as part of the development, and any on-site drainage created by the property will need to be captured on site, meeting with the requirements of our flood code of the Department of Public Works.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any more questions from commissioners? Mike Batusik, please.
Yes, it's Mike Batusik. Is it typical for a project to move forward without the TIAR that's agreed to by the relevant agency that owns the road?
I have seen it both ways in the past, and even currently, we have required or requested that those things be dealt with prior to going forward with a hearing, but also in some situations where ultimately, when it comes down to kind of whatever DOT says goes, and we have conditions kind of addressing that in our proposed conditions, and we've been comfortable kind of moving it forward and leaving that up to be done after the fact prior to occupancy.
Mike, when I think you recused yourself, but we had it with the cows came forward to do theirs at Napapo. That was a condition set at that time that it be the state that made those decisions, and that was written into it, even though the project was approved.
Okay, if I could continue.
Yes.
This is a county zoning change, right? And not a, for the front portion of it, it's zoned urban, and so it'd be a county zoning.
Mhm.
Does it make sense to fully understand the effects of the traffic before issuing the change of zone?
So again, I think the way that we've seen this, and I can certainly let the director speak to it as well, but ultimately, the applicant and DOT are going to have to come to some kind of an agreement on appropriate mitigation based on current, and then whatever comes out of the new traffic study. If DOT is comfortable with it, then we're kind of leaving it to them, since it's their Kuleana to tell the applicant what needs to be done in terms of access. So DOT may come back and say, yeah, 2 accesses are fine, or we want 1 access, or we want it taken off of Ichihara Farm Road. It's ultimately going to be their call. So we're comfortable kind of moving that forward, and with the understanding that DOT in any case is going to have final call on what traffic improvements need to be made. And again, I'll defer to the director if he wants to add on to that.
Sure. Zendo, current planning director, concur with what Christian K has said. And adding to that, condition E requires the TAR prior to plan approval being submitted to the planning department, which would give the most up-to-date time traffic count to have mitigation measures done on. So I would think it'd be more appropriate to have it done sooner to the plan approval than it would be even now.
Yeah. I will also point out, Commissioner Petusik, that there has been some delay in bringing this back to the commission, largely because of the issues with DOT, and we waited for a significant amount of time to let them have an opportunity to kind of work those things out. There still seems to be a stalemate between the applicant and DOT on what the applicant's traffic engineers think is appropriate and what DOT finds acceptable. And again, we are comfortable moving it forward with the zoning, because ultimately DOT is going to have to make the final call.
So the last communication from DOT stating that the applicant should withdraw the application for a change of zone and boundary amendment until the consolidation and subdivision process has been completed before moving forward, as the proposed development contradicts the current restrictions on the property. What?
Right. So I believe after that came in, there's been a significant back and forth between the applicant and DOT. So there hasn't been anything additional in writing that's come in from them. We were hoping that given the additional time we requested requested for them to kind of nail that down, that they could come back with some type of an agreement, but it hasn't happened yet.
No agreement yet.
Correct.
Okay.
And I'll maybe let the applicant speak to some of those additional conversations.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Petusik, Commissioner Petusik. Anybody else? Yes, Commissioner Knowles.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a question, and some of the testifiers brought this up as well. The goals and priorities set forth in the South Kohala CDP, one of which is responsible growth, and looking at sort of what's required, what the recommendations that the CDP specifically sets out in prior to sort of rezoning some of these ag lands is that we wait until that they should retain their current zoning until such time as sort of an overall comprehensive plan can be put in place, infrastructure is appropriate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that that's what the CDP contemplates fairly clearly. So how does this kind of piecemeal small development project fit into the planning department's overarching concept or view of what the Waimea Urban Town Center should look like based on the guidance set forth in the CDP?
Yeah, so on page 4 of the recommendation, we kind of speak to that. So there's kind of a proviso after the statement that it needs to kind of stay there. It says exceptions can be made for affordable housing, agricultural cluster subdivisions, and small scale rezonings of 4 lots or less that may assist families in allowing their children to obtain individual properties. I think that coming back and doing the RA zoning was kind of a compromise that seemed more in line with the CDP than the original state land use urban and single family residential zoning that was proposed back in 2021. So the director felt more comfortable that this particular proposal was more in line with what the intent of the CDP. And again, I can defer to the director on any further discussion on that.
Director Kern, would you address this? I mean, primarily what I hear this sort of reference of this is accessible to local families and small farmers. And I just don't I'd like to understand how you're thinking about this project in the overall context of planning for Waimea.
Sure. I concur with what our planner Christian K said as well. If you look at the surrounding areas within Waimea, this is very consistent to the number of, go back to the other one, the aerial view. There you go. It's consistent with the surrounding property areas. It's very consistent with the general plan. As Christian mentioned, we believe it is consistent with the CDP as well. There's also language that when there's a conflict with the general plan and the CDP, the general plan will trump the CDP in those cases. And so looking at the makeup of the area with commercial street frontage, office type uses, and the density that would be allowed, we feel that it is consistent with that area.
Well, as a Waimea resident, I just like to say this is not dense at all. I mean, in terms of urban development, what you have is Earl's, a gas station, a dance studio, and a coffee shop, basically in this area. It's so I'm just trying to get a sense of, I'm thinking about view planes. I'm thinking about, so the folks on the backside where the agricultural rezoning is being requested, they'll have views of the mountain, but folks on the road will not. I'm just trying to think about the character of what's the overall plan for this east side in your view, based on the
A couple of things there. Along the roadway there, you have it state land use urban already. State land use is zoned urban or is urban, which indicates that urban use should be done along that roadway. So it's extremely consistent with that. The 5 lots on the back side of it to residential ag would allow for smaller residential ag lots to be created. We all believe that there's a need for lots for families. And how do we get to that place if we're not able to create those lots? We can say that we want these things, but then when the rubber meets the road, what do we actually do? In this case, the rubber is meeting the road. And there are 5 lots that could be created that are residential ag in Waimea that would provide an opportunity for folks. So that's why we would support it.
So then in terms of the sort of idea of the traffic concerns and other things that have been raised, is this, in your view, what the CDB contemplates as sort of the eastern hub of commercial activity in Waimea? Is this where that plan will be centered in the planning department's mind's eye? I'm just trying to get a sense, or is this sprawl?
No, this is getting definitely to the eastern side of it. Can you show the, yeah, so it's right there at the, almost towards that eastern hub. Looks like there's a few more lots. So yeah, it's not going to be more sprawl. This would be towards that eastern end of things. So for example, if somebody came in with maybe 5 lots down towards the Honoka'a side, don't quote me on the 5 lots, but a number of lots down that were outside of that, we'd be having a different conversation.
Commissioner Fatuzzi?
Sure. So the language that I'm hearing is that this conforms more closely to the community development plan, but it doesn't conform exactly with the community development plan.
Yeah, that's correct. So on page 5 of the recommendation, that says the applicant's proposed development does not strictly adhere to the exceptions for changing the current zoning, in that it's not an agricultural cluster subdivision. And although the applicant will be required to meet county housing code for providing affordable housing, the subdivision will include primarily market rate lots. Additionally, the proposed 5-lot subdivision slightly exceeds the 4 lots or less minimum mentioned in the CDP. And so it goes on to say that in 2021, there was urban and single family residential, but the director feels like this is kind of more in line with what the CDP says than that 2021 application.
Mahalo. And then to Vice Chair Knowles' point, looking at this area on the ground, look at the zoning map and you can see that there are commercial buildings in the area. But all of those are in historic buildings with the exception of the gas station across the street, which, really stands out tremendously in that area. but going to the east, you've got the Fish and the Hog building, which is a historic building. The one to the west is another historic home site used as a commercial. So the character of the area isn't changed by the use of those historic buildings. This would be a pretty
Right.
significant.
This is a question.
Sure. The question is this the most appropriate zoning? And I understand that's within the state land use boundary, but because we have dual land use regulations, has the county considered any other zonings that would be more appropriate for this portion of town?
Sure. So, I mean, ultimately, if we're talking about the Mackay portion, as the director stated, it's already urban. And so the zoning code would obviously control, and if the zoning is approved, then anything in the CN zoning would be allowed. The Malco portion that's going from being proposed to go from ag to rural is fully within the county's purview, as well as it's under 15 acres. So that's why it's brought in front of you folks as well. So yeah, I mean, I think that we are responding to this application, and I believe that the director's recommendation makes it clear that we feel that it's appropriate, the proposed RA zoning.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to get a presentation then from the applicant. Thank you, Christian. Okay. So will the applicant and the representative please come forward?
Good morning,
Okay.
Chair DeFranco.
Good morning. Hold on just a second. Let's let everybody get seated. Then I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand and to swear to affirm the truth today.
I do.
Mr. Metzler? True. I do. Okay, remember to speak directly into the mic. You have to get it sort of close to you to do this.
I think I can project well enough. Thank you.
Okay, and then if
Hi.
you just, state your name and where you're from.
Catherine Garson and Renana Thome from Carl Smith Ball. We represent Kapolei land.
And
To my left is John Metzler, member of Kapolei land. His wife Joni is behind him. We also have with us our traffic consultant, Randy Okaneku, and project engineer, Yen Wen Fang.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Have you received the background and recommendation reports from the planning?
Yes, we have.
Yes, and do you agree with the recommendations, including the proposed conditions?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and do you have any other comments then?
If you'll indulge me, I do have a short presentation.
Thank you.
I believe that some of you are here in 2021 when the applicant brought a prior application before the Leeward Planning Commission. Our prior application had requested that the back portion of the lot be state land use designated urban, and that back portion of the lot be rezoned to RS10. At that time, there are a lot of comments about that application. And we do have some of the comments up just to kind of remind you where we were. Chair DeFranco, you asked the applicant to go back and look at the project, reconsider the design. Commissioner Pishon Duarte said, you know, we'll do a little bit better at preserving Waimea's sense of space. And at that time, the planning director and planning department had a couple of suggestions, and these were made at the meeting the last time. Suggested maybe we look at rural, residential ag. And at that time, I was Chair Vatusek. You're like, yeah, rural sounds good. So what the applicant did was go back, take another look at the project. consult with the planning department again. And so what you have before you is an application that is the result of that thought process, taking in community input, taking in the input of the planning department, and coming back with this proposal. So in this application, as the planning department presented, the front portion is already urban. And so for that, there's no change on the state land use side. For the zoning, we're requesting the change to neighborhood commercial, 10,000. The back portion is for an SLU rural. So this is a change from our prior request for urban. And instead of RS10 in the back, which would have made that back portion more dense, we're requesting the residential ag 0.5. And this is the same slide you saw. The front of the parcel is already urban. It's that back portion that is labeled with the AA that we are asking you to designate rural. And if you look a little bit to the left of that slide, you can see that there is a rural designation up on the right, a few lots down. So that rural designation already exists in Waimea town. And it really serves to kind of transition between the urban and the ag. In the rural district, the minimum lot size, it can't be less than a half an acre. And again, the last time when we came and we were requesting RS10, there was sort of this a feeling that there wasn't enough control on the density, that if you had rezoned it RS10, even though the applicant was saying he was going to do so many lots, the RS10 zoning would allow more. And so with the rural designation, he cannot go smaller than a half an acre. So it's not going to get more dense than that. This again, we wanted to show you what the existing zoning is. So there is neighborhood commercial, C10 to the towards Waimea. On the other side, there's RS10 across the street, family ag. It really does give you sort of the commercial uses on Mamalahoa, off Mamalahoa Highway, and then the residential uses kind of in the back of that. And it's a variety. And you can see again on the top left side, so that area that's rural and in that corner is also residential ag 0.5. So that's what we're kind of looking at, some consistency in town. And this is just a description of the proposed zonings. If you look at the residential and agriculture half acre, it talks about small farms, and it is intended to be within the state land use rural or urban districts. So this is showing you the existing surrounding commercial uses. Like you said, the Fish and the Hog is towards Honoka, and Earl's, and the Minute Stop is across. Towards Waimea town, you have the HPM building, you have Napa Auto Parts. Those are all also not historical buildings, but built with that Waimea sense of community, which is what the applicant intends. Existing on this property are 2 single-family residences already, and the Messlers fixed them up. So we wanted to show this is sort of the character of what the homes that we're anticipating are going to be on that back portion. So there's this one and one more and that. And to Commissioner Knoll's question about the CDP. So the way I look at the consistency with the CDP, because there's 2 existing residences already, you're really looking at 3 additional residents. So
Please direct your comments to me.
oh, I'm so sorry. It was in response to the question about the CDP. So you're really looking at 3 additional residences. So that to me is in keeping in line with the 4 additional, even though they call them lots. These 2 lots already would have homes on them. So you're really looking at 3 additional residences. So to me, it keeps within the spirit of what the CDP is asking for. The other thing about the 5 lots is Chapter 11, which is the affordable housing, has the affordable housing requirements. If you have 4 lots, there is no affordable housing requirement. 5, it kicks in the 20%. So one of the other thoughts were, okay, well, if he went down to 4 lots, fine, but then actually there is no affordable housing requirement. By having the 5, there's a 20% affordable housing requirement. So, we didn't want to come back and then be accused of trying to skirt having an affordable housing option. So again, this is consistent with the general plan. It's consistent with the already state land use urban designation. And yeah, we think that you should give us a favorable recommendation today. And we are all here to answer questions.
We appreciate you coming back with the new plan, and I appreciate seeing the character of the houses that you have presently there, because they are in keeping with the historic look of Waimea and the sort of that. I think that some of the concern then is possibly what character the development would look like, in the front. I think one of the testifiers stated something about the height of that and maybe making it single story. I just want to address all of this so that we can talk a bit about it. So in the design, can you speak to us? You don't really have any idea of the design of the front, is that right? Or
1 second, it was in the application.
okay.
So it should be in your background report. And if you're looking at electronic version, I'm sorry. So I'll just have to hold it up for you. It's exhibit 5.
Okay, I'm scrolling back to it. Yeah.
It's on page 72 in your PDFs of the background report. At least it's showing 72 on my PDF reader.
Too far. Oh. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you take a look at that exhibit, it's that same sort of, it's that historical Waimea town look to them.
Right, okay, so, because one of the other testifiers, they wanted to say something about it being a Kmart parking lot, no, KTA parking lot. And it gives you the imagery of, this huge shopping center being put there, but that isn't what this is. It is more in line with maybe medical buildings or something else. Is that what?
Correct. I think the types of tenants the applicant was looking for, doctor, architect, dentist, that's what we're
Right.
talking about, right? Yeah,
Okay,
lawyer.
so Commissioner Vatusic?
Yes, thank you. Does the applicant intend to construct the buildings or sell the commercial lots?
We haven't made a determination on that yet. Things are moving pretty slowly, so we're trying to not make any missteps along the way and do everything as it should be done.
Are there any other questions?
I guess same question for the houses in the back. Would you be selling lots or building homes?
No decision has been made yet, but my instinct is that I'd like to make those 3 remaining ag lots as affordable as possible to local families. And I think the best way to do that is to sell a vacant lot, allow them to build their own home. We've been involved in a lot of self-help housing and employee type housing for our own group. And most of them have built their own homes and really loved it.
Awesome. I remember last time we had a question about CC&Rs on the lots. Is that something that you guys are still considering?
No.
CCNRs
Yeah,
that would
I don't-
restrict the building of a home to a certain level that would increase the cost for construction.
Yeah, I don't think that there's a decision on that. On the commercial, there'll probably have to be CCNRs because it's going to be shared parking. So the commercial side there will be,
And on the residential in the back.
yeah. No decision, right?
Well, we haven't made a decision there. I think as you can see, we restored those two homes to their original condition. It wasn't cheap, all the way down to the hardware and millwork. So we've demonstrated that we're interested in maintaining the Waimea culture and heritage and visual. So I think it's safe to say that whether or not there are CCNRs, there may be a minor CCNR component, but either way, the homes that are constructed there will blend in with Hawaii. We'll be sure to make that happen.
Thank you. Commissioner Mike?
Well, Commissioner Vatusek actually asked the question, but I do have one just additional to the current structure that is already in the property. Are those currently occupied right now, or I know you did some renovation on that. Is that currently occupied?
Oh, we have a family member living in one home and we rent the other.
Any of the other commissioners have questions?
Can
Vice
you-
Chair? Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Can you speak a little bit to the ongoing conversations with the Department of Transportation and your concern and your sort of thinking around how best to address traffic concerns on the road? There are maybe 80 different driveways, I think, between Kamamalu and Mud Lane. And I'd like to hear a little bit from you about what your plans are and where the conversations lie right now with the DOT.
Yeah, so we met with them in April. And the conversation surrounded, the conversation surrounded the two access to the commercial versus one. And so just backing up a little bit, when this project was first conceptualized, the applicant had gone to the South Kohala Traffic Safety Committee. And there were actually 3 accesses, one for each of the lots that are proposed for the commercial. And so at that time, it was the South Kohala Traffic Committee who said, go take a look at it and reduce the accesses. So then it became 2. And so the South Kohala Traffic Committee was satisfied. And I think in the background report, there's a letter saying thank you, for doing what we asked and taking a look at it again. And then Mamalohoa Highway was recently transferred back to DOT. So we're having the same conversation again about accesses. And so it's just, at this point, it's the applicant justifying 2 versus 1 to the commercial portion. And our traffic consultant updated the TIAR, so there's an addendum to it to try to give a little bit more background and justification for the 2 accesses. So that's where we are. There hasn't been a decision on their part one way or the other. And the other thing is, I think that there was a little bit of a misconception on their part, because first they were saying, go subdivide it first and then come ask us about it. And so we had to kind of tell them, no, this is like, we need to do this before we get to that point. So that's where the discussion is. It's not, they haven't committed to allowing the 2 or 1 up to the commercial.
Thank you. Yes.
Madam Chair, I just wanted
Director
to
Zendo, yeah.
really brief on the commercial design component side of things. So when an application comes in for commercial in the Waimea area, we send it to the Waimea community group. I just want to say Waimea Community Center, but Waimea Community Association. And they review the design and they give a recommendation back to the director, whether they agree with the design or want to see an adjustment. And the concept is to keep it in the character of Waimea. And so that's a practice that we do. I just wanted to mention that when that had come up before. We don't do it for residential, but we do it for commercial projects. And so this would go through that same process.
Just for clarity, however, I just wanted to ask you to clarify that that is a civilian group without any background necessarily in planning or development.
That's absolutely correct. And it's not for them to plan out the projects. It's for them to give comments on the aesthetics, the architecture, the color, and those features.
Thank you.
Thank you. And does the applicant want to respond to any of the testifiers' concerns that we haven't already spoken about?
No, I think we've covered it. I mean, we appreciate the public comments. I mean, I think coming back to you with a revised plan just demonstrates that we did take all of the comments seriously, and try to incorporate a lot of those comments into this application.
Thank you. Okay. All right, having no more comments, we need a motion for action on item 1, State Land Use Boundary Amendment, PLSLU 2022-000008. Looking for a motion. Did I make a motion? Am I allowed to make a motion? Oh, okay. Yes, Vice Chair. Are you making?
I move that a favorable recommendation be forwarded to the county council on the application for change of zone.
We need a
I
second.
just,
please.
sorry, I need to do them both. We're doing the first one.
No, one at a
One at a
time.
time. I move that a favorable recommendation be forwarded to the county council on the application for a state land use boundary amendment docket number PLSLU 2022-000008 based on the planning director's recommendation, which shall be adopted.
I need a second, please.
Second.
Second by Commissioner. Okay. So now we have a discussion, please. Vice Chair Knowles.
I represent South Kohala as a commissioner here, and I understand, I understand the need for this sort of development. And I also understand the ambivalence or anxiety attendant with these kinds of changes to the community. I think that, the applicant is a longstanding resident of the Big Island and businessman, and has a lot of experience in this area. But I do think it's incumbent on me to really highlight that the anxiety stems from a sense of really not understanding what the overarching plan is for this area and how this fits into that plan. And my hope is that Planning Director Kern, as you're going forward, making recommendations in favor of projects like this, that you're contextualizing it in a way that promotes a sense of trust in the community and a sense of security in the ideas behind it and what the overarching plan is. Because what we don't need in Waimea is another commercial business not connected to a commercial business one block down by sidewalks, for example, and bike paths and alternate transportation routes and those kinds of things. What the community is suffering from is a lack of cohesion in the planning of the community. And that is my hesitation in supporting this project.
Thank you. Were you here in 2021 when they present? Okay. Thank you. Do we have any more discussions?
Sure.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, is there
Sorry.
something else?
Well, no, okay. Yes,
Okay.
Commissioner Batiste.
Well, as all the commissioners know, this is something that's going to be decided by the county council, both of these items. And so we're here to provide a recommendation on what we think, if this is an appropriate zoning or not for this area. No disrespect to the applicants, they are definitely valued members of the community, all that, that's not in question. To me, I just don't think that this is an appropriate zoning for this area at this time. I think that it's doing too much in an area where we're transitioning into the country. I like the rural designation, but I think there are too many outstanding issues with traffic. And for me, if we're adding a commercial development of this size into an area that's on the fringe of the town, I think we need to have the traffic issues addressed in advance. So for me, I would give an unfavorable recommendation for those reasons.
Thank you. I think I feel sort of the opposite of that. I like the way that they came back and they changed the size of the lots in the back and made it affordable. And all of us need more homes to live in, for the families to live in. And I think that they've looked at the land, and listening to them after they did this massive cleanup, because it used to be a dump there, cleaning up the whole piece of land, bringing it back into life, and then presenting something, realizing that it wasn't the best interest of the community, went back and redesigned it so that it was more in keeping with the general plan and the CDP. And even their conceptual plans are very nicely done. I mean, the homes that exist on it now look like little, the homes they're not mega mansions that they're coming in here with. And that was a fear before. You can see that's not the intention here, that the intention is to make affordable housing for the community so that people can live there and have their homes there. And to when I look at the medical community in Waimea, wanting more places to have, to service the people that live there, that we need this small kind development happening there so that we have places for business and for residents. So for me, I'm quite comfortable with the project. And I know that it's dependent on the DOT of approval. So they're going to have to work that out with them. So I'm not worried about the traffic, that's a state thing. And it won't get passed through the county unless they come into compliance with the state regulations and codes. So I'm comfortable with it. Do we have some more discussion here? No? Okay. So if there's no more discussion, then we're gonna do a roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is on the state land use boundary amendment. The motion is favorable recommendation. Vice Chair Knowles,
No.
Commissioner Dela Cruz,
Yes.
Commissioner Kanuha.
I'll abstain, please.
I'm sorry, did you say abstain?
Yeah.
We don't have a quorum, do we?
Commissioner Batusik
No.
and Chair DeFranco.
Yes.
Okay, motion fails with 2 aye votes, 2 no votes, and an abstention.
So do we move on to the next one? Yeah. Okay, so we're going to look at the next one is a motion for action on item 2, change of zone PL-REZ-2022-000039.
I move that a favorable recommendation be forwarded to the county council on application for change of zone docket number PLREZ 2022000039 based on the planning director's recommendation, which shall be adopted.
You need a second?
Second.
So we have a discussion.
I feel the same as the previous.
Is there any other discussion? No other discussion. We call for a vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, this is a favorable recommendation on the rezone. Vice Chair Knowles,
No.
Commissioner Vatusik,
No.
Commissioner Dela Cruz.
Yes.
Okay, and Commissioner Kanuha,
Aye. Yes.
all right, and pardon me, Chair DeFranco.
Yes.
Okay, motion fails.
No, no,
Yes.
CJ said yes.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Okay, you will be notified of the commissioner's decision in writing.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Mhm. Yes.
There was actually no decision because both motions failed.
Oh,
So the county code says that the planning commission needs to make a decision, meaning a valid vote one way or another,
oh,
within 90 days after receipt of the application from the director. So at this point, an option would be to defer the hearing to see if votes change at the next hearing. And then if they do not, and there's still not a valid motion that goes up, then a failure to act by the commission is an automatic unfavorable recommendation that would be
so
transmitted to
then
the
we
council.
need to make a motion to defer, is that right? Or do,
Give me a little bit more time.
That would be my reading of it. I would ask that you
Okay.
check with your corp counsel.
we make a motion now to defer. So that there's one more person on the commission and maybe there's another person added. So maybe we will. So we need a motion to defer.
Give me
please.
some time to breeze through some of this.
It's-
I wanna have
CJ's
some time-
making a
more time
motion to
go through
defer,
this,
but
as
he
I've been
can't
so
speak.
under the weather.
Hmm?
I've heard everything today, but I would want to delve into it a little bit more, so not to defer to the previous, please. Yeah.
I think CJ is making a
Yes.
motion to defer.
Make a motion to defer. I'm sorry, I've been under the weather, so.
We need a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Oh, do you object to this motion to defer? Are you okay with that?
No, yeah,
Yeah.
we're fine. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So any discussion then on? This is a discussion.
I had a question for the planning department. Would it be possible for us to hear from a representative of the Department of Transportation? Or is it appropriate?
Yeah, we can certainly make that request for the next planning commission meeting. Not a problem at all.
That would be very helpful.
Yep.
Thank you.
Easy.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the motion to defer? Seeing none, we have a roll call, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. On the motion to defer, Commissioner Kanuha,
Aye.
Commissioner Vatusik,
Aye.
Commissioner Dela Cruz,
Aye.
Commissioner Knowles,
Aye.
and Chair DeFranco.
Aye.
Motion to defer carries 5-0.
Yes, and so we need one more motion to defer. Was that item 2? No. That was 1. So now we need a motion to defer item 2. Oh. Okay, So now we need a motion to defer for item 1.
I move that we defer item 1 to the next meeting of the Leeward Planning Commission.
We need a second.
Second.
Is there any discussion? No discussion? Oh, are you okay with that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, so no discussion. So we need a vote on this, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Motion to defer for item 1. Commissioner Knowles,
Aye.
Commissioner Dela Cruz,
Aye.
Commissioner Kanuha,
Aye.
Commissioner Vatusik,
Aye.
and Chair DeFranco.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. New business. We've deferred the next one, right? Yes, we're on page 6. So we're not doing this, right?
But it's on the agenda, so you can read it.
Okay, we did have a third agenda item. It was the applicant of 1250 Oceanside LLC, PLREZ 2023-000042. But I think it was deferred to another, it's withdrawn. Okay. Was there any public testimony on that item? No, okay. Then we have the next item is the planning director's report. Report on special management area SMA determination and minor permits issued by the planning director for the month of April and May. So everybody got this report. Does anybody have any questions about it? And there are no testifiers on this. Okay, the agenda items for the next meeting. Do any of the commissioners have any requests? Okay, seeing none. Announcements. The Leeward Planning Commission's next monthly meeting is scheduled for Thursday, July 20th, 2023 at the County Council Chambers in Kona. The public can also testify via Zoom. The date and venue of the menu are subject to change. Does the staff have any announcements? Maya?
Chair, we have 10 items tentatively scheduled for your next hearing, including.
Does that mean we get lunch?
Oh, yeah. And I just want to clarify for the record as well that the 1250 Oceanside application has been deferred, but not withdrawn yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I stand corrected.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was, okay, so then no further business. We need a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
I need a second.
Is it,
Oops,
just,
wait.
I know it's not my business anymore, but I was just curious if there are any announcements on new commissioners. If there's any new commissioners coming.
There is a name being transmitted to the county council, I believe, that should hit the committee on the 5th of July.
Thank you. So now we're looking for a second for the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Vatusik. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? No, motion carries. Meeting adjourns at 11:19.